You know what's better than one anime, Brian?
100 of anime.
100 anime.
100 animes.
Ew. Brian and I, for I would say over a year,
Definitely over a year.
100% over a year, for the larger portion of COVID, we compiled a list of 100 anime either one or both of us have seen. We substituted a few because during the time we were watching Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood already, so we didn't include this in our rewatch list because we were already halfway through.
There were also one or two that were just left out because we kind of forgot about them.
We forgot a little bit, but that sounds like a them problem for not being memorable enough.
Yeah, which is honestly a common theme with a lot of the anime on this list.
Ouch. Burn.
But we'll get there.
So, we did what anyone would do, and we substituted to get to 100 to My Little Pony series and Young Justice, because that makes so much sense. It is worth to point out that halfway through, we did binge Zombieland Saga, so that is also, even though we've both seen that in the time period of these lists, we did not include that because it wasn't technically a rewatch.
See, it was listed on one of my notes here, but I won't mention it when we
No, mention it. Just mention it with like a little asterisk. We need that.
A vocal asterisk.
A vocal... Did I say it wrong?
Asterisk. Maybe it's just asterisk.
I guess that's an asterisk we're gonna have to take.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You want to talk about the scoring system?
Yeah, go ahead. You do it better.
Okay. The way that we rated this, and we kind of workshopped this very quickly, but we scored each anime only the first 3 episodes on 3 separate categories. Quality, which is kind of self-explanatory, right? The visual quality, the plot quality, the general overall value of the show.
A bit more objective than subjective.
Exactly. Category 2 was raw enjoyment, and that didn't really have to rely on how good or bad the show was. It was simply just how much we liked watching it. And last was actually a negative category of cringe of sorts. So we would kind of separate that out a little bit if we could from the other thing. So something could be a show that maybe had some really good writing and plot and would have high on quality score, and it would allow us to give it that good quality score without taking away from it because of one or two kind of like maybe really sexist or bad pieces of writing. We would include that instead negatively in the cringe category.
So the highest score an anime could get would be 10 because each category is 5. So you could get 5 quality, 5 enjoyment, and 0 cringe would be your ideal.
Right. Technically, something could be a -5 if it was 0, 0, and -5. But I want to say I, in my ratings, always gave it at least a 1. I don't think I ever went 0 or negative.
I think there were times where it would have been negative, but we rounded up because we felt bad.
Exactly. We did also modify some final ratings, so we would take both of our scores and blend them together at the end. But before we did that, we would allow ourselves to modify it while including an asterisk ?S spelling to be determined.
Let's call it a little star.
Little star. We would put a little star next to the rating if we changed it just kind of on a whim.
Yeah. We tried really hard not to mix in our memories of the plot to try to avoid as best as possible mixing nostalgia into the score. This is about first impressions.
It really is. And that's something important to keep in mind because there are shows that I know would have scored way lower or higher had we actually included our entire feelings about the show.
Which some of them, I felt bad giving a score as high as I did because I'm like, I know this is going to be bad.
Sword Art Online.
I was thinking Sword Art Online. I don't like anything past that first arc, and even parts of the first arc I really don't like. But those first 3 episodes were phenomenal.
Yeah, and we'll get there.
We'll get there. Let's start off with the biggest surprises.
Biggest surprises. So Haikyuu is the first one that sprang to mind, and I am so sorry to everyone listening because you're going to be hearing about this in like 5 of the different categories we have to talk about.
Brian is so obsessed with Haikyuu.
I am. I have a problem. Shannon and I joined a volleyball league because I like volleyball anime so much. But these young lads are good at volleyball, and it's funny. The reason I included it in this category specifically is because in the past you had told me about Haikyuu.
Yes.
I had tried watching it, gotten a couple of episodes in, and kind of fluttered out pretty quick. I don't remember like disliking the show. I just remember kind of being like, eh. And for some reason, whatever has changed within me the last couple of years, when we watched it this time around, I think it was maybe the only 10 out of 10 or like 9.5 out of 10 or whatever score I had given it on our sheet was the only one I think that was that high. That was the biggest surprise for me, only because it's not a show that we watched I hadn't seen before that I really liked, but a show that I had watched, sort of dismissed, and then come back around on and just been really wowed by, I don't know, just how much these little fuckers love volleyball.
But I was a bit surprised by, and I can't even remember the title. It's like Under the Half Moon.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that one is a testament to how a show can be very objectively bad in quality, but you have such a fun time watching it.
It was one of the Looking Up at the Half Moon.
Yes.
Yeah, Looking Up at the Half Moon, and like it was objectively really bad, but it's one of the few I remembered staunchly from the list because of how much fun we had watching it.
Because I remember when you put it on and I saw the animation and I knew the premise, I thought I was going to have the worst time watching it. But then at one point, the doctor's like drinking on the job and kicking the shit out of this sick kid. And it's just like, you can't get quality animation like that anymore.
Are we bad people?
Yes.
Like, I'm just thinking about the things like this, like that will lead up to that. It's like, man, I thought this anime was going to be bad, but then some drunken doctor starts beating up a sick child, and that's what I was really sold.
I want to defend myself, but that's like verbatim what I said.
I think the way to explain it is what we'll probably get to when we talk about stuff like JoJo's, where it's one of those so absurdly over the top, kind of unrealistic nonsense that happens that you kind of are just taken aback and filled with joy at how ridiculous everything is.
Oh, yeah.
Other surprising anime, Non-Biyori, and I think this is the same for both of us. I think I was the one who had watched it and put it on the list.
You were.
And like I had back in the day where we were early in our anime watching, big slice of life fiend, and like I liked it back then for different reasons. Like now, I don't know if I'd include it as high on my general watch rate lists, but I think it's good when it's comedic.
Yeah.
Right? When there's something really in there that is like kind of driving the comedy. And I would say Non-Biyori was maybe one of the funniest shows that we watched on the list.
Oh, yeah.
It was very understated humor.
I think it was ahead of its time in using silences and gaps for comedic purpose.
そしてもう一回吹けばふざけをしますの待って今度は音出たうわ何を
Which I think is becoming the type of humor these days. The fact it predated that, perhaps the first time you watched it, it might have been, oh, this is cute and wholesome, but there's not much else. Whereas now, I think the comedy is what really shined through the most.
Absolutely. I think one of the pinnacles of like what stood out to me was the way they use the one brother who never says a single word the entire time, but is more of like a punching bag, I guess. Like
He's just in the background.
Yeah, they'd set up a ridiculous situation like holes in the floor, having to harvest rice out of like one of the patties, and he'd just be like buried neck deep, kind of in the background.
Yeah, he was funny.
It was small stuff like that. I put Kill la Killin' because I remember being kind of like, even at the time I watched it, which was a long time ago, put off by how sexualized everything was. Putting that aside into the cringe content, like the show itself was actually pretty enjoyable to watch. The animation was actually really cool, but
the music was amazing.
Yeah, which we're talking about that stuff later too. Like, we have separate categories.
Yeah. Sorry,
I'll definitely hound. No, hey,
sorry.
Hey, whoa.
Sorry, no,
hey, whoa,
it's
whoa.
okay.
Hey,
it's okay.
It's okay. One Punch Man and Blue Spring Ride, both included in this category because
really.
Well, what I said, what the little note I have here is that I
What'd
knew.
You put? Did you put a little?
I put a little note.
A little star or just a note?
No, just a note.
It's an arrow. Come on, man.
Listen, I was just thought plotting.
Whatever.
But anyway, my thought plot tells me that One Punch Man and Blue Spring Ride were both shows that I knew I kind of liked. But what surprised me was watching them this time, how they were like actually some of my favorites. Both of them were way above the bar I had set for them previously.
I feel so offended that there was a point in your life you didn't think Blue Spring Ride was the best anime ever.
Yeah.
You know what's funny is that you were actually the one to make me watch it when we were younger.
Really?
Yep, you watched it first, and you were like, Shannon, you have to watch this.
You just changed my entire perception of the world, because if you had asked me to say who watched it first, I would have absolutely said it was you.
You watched most of the shoujo and slice of life first.
That is true. That was the funny thing is, like, in my college age and like the end of your high school into college time, I was watching all like the slice of life shoujo, and you were watching like Tokyo Ghoul and like
oh yeah, I'd be like, Brian, you have to watch Tokyo Ghoul, and you're like, okay, as long as you watch Toradora.
Were there anything other surprises you wanted to talk about?
I have a negative surprise, which I guess could also count as like a letdown. Do you know what it is?
No, I'm so excited.
I was heartbroken. I was wholeheartedly going into this anime thinking, yes, time to fulfill all of my memories, was Soul Eater.
When you started the sentence, I started to realize where you were going.
Yeah, that was really disappointing because I remember being so invested in that anime and the manga, and I really liked the characters. I remember thinking it was so cool that it was like a shonen with a female protagonist, and then you realize that just because you have a female protagonist does not mean your show isn't going to sexualize teenage girls.
I remember too, you loved that show. Like you did.
I loved it.
Yeah.
I have original art. I got at Comic-Con of Maka. It looks so good. it wasn't even like once in a blue moon where you can kind of ignore it. It was like every other scene was someone with their shirt off and someone with their pants off, someone's pants being pulled off. What was even more offensive was, at least in some shows, they equally sexualize every gender, but in this one,
It's about equality.
but I think the thing that pissed me off was that for some odd reason, Liz, Patty, and Tsubaki are naked when they're in their weapons, and then Soul just isn't. He has his cool jacket on. That just feels wrong. Like, take off your fucking shirt too, bitch. And I think he might eventually.
Oh, yeah.
But the point is, we only watched the first 3 episodes.
Oh yeah, and as a side note too, if you're someone who likes this show, like, we're not trying to rail on you. There's the whole reason we had the separate cringe category in a lot of these was that, like, we like certain shows that we are willing to forgive certain, I don't know, maybe not forgive, but
I mean, I read the Soul Eater manga, I think in 2019 again, like I reread it, and I don't remember being too off put by it. So maybe it's just the anime?
it's tough out here.
It is tough. So next would be what we thought acted as the best introduction, because we only did watch 3 episodes. So which of these anime, based on those 3 episodes, were we most excited to rewatch? Or even in some cases, we did end up rewatching the whole thing after. Spoiler alert, I have a feeling Brian's about to talk about Haikyuu.
Like, I can. I'm not going to. I'm just going to say it's the first one on the list. If this was done in the last year and a half, and you figure I've rewatched the show now like 4 times.
That's terrifying.
It is. Like, I've just been piling through.
To think that like a year and a half ago, you didn't have Haikyuu in your life. But that one, I mean, I did the same thing. I rewatched all of Haikyuu.
Mm-hmm.
And then you did it 4 times over. But it's a really good show.
Were there any other ones that, like, even if you didn't watch, or, like, maybe you did, that you want to now?
Well, for me, it wouldn't be a rewatch because you were the one that put it on the list. But I do want to finish up Recon.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That makes me so happy to hear.
I don't know what it was about that one character. I think the characters felt very realistic, which I know is often the point of slice of life or, like, that genre. I really liked the main character's dynamic. And I'm going to say it. I ship it.
You should.
I haven't shipped things in a long time, so it was nice to finally have that feeling again of like, aww.
Lovable airhead and jaded friend / rival is just, I don't know, something good about it. There's something good about that.
Oh, there is.
Yeah.
And I also, like, really love that haircut. You know the one.
That show has an interesting style, though, where it fits into that newer, bright palette, clean lines, like, where that a lot of shows have. It was pretty unique with the hair, though, because it would, like, kind of do, like, a spray brush effect, I guess, or, like, multicolored.
It looked like both 90s and 2015 at the same time.
At the same time.
But not, like, mid-2000s.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm so happy you said that. I like that show a lot. It's funny.
Yeah, no, I'm actually looking forward to eventually watching that.
Yeah. I put One Punch Man on here, but we kind of already talked
Yeah.
about that a little bit. It was just, like, better than I remembered. Non-Biori, same thing. We already kind of touched on it. Special A.
Oh, now I'm pleasantly surprised.
It's like that falls definitely into the latter half of like the is it good or is it bad and I just love watching it. It's very silly and dumb, but in the best way.
She made a rice ball and it was really bad, but he was so excited to eat it.
It was.
That's like, I've seen that trope so many times, it never gets old.
It never gets old. It's the perfect trope. Did you have anything else in the
Was that Monica Rial?
Yeah.
It was.
Oh, for sure was, right?
Nice.
It has to be.
I feel like I was haunted by that character, which implies is probably Monica Rial.
As part of your Christmas gift, I couldn't get because I tried and it wasn't available. They have like an app, I forget what it's called, a Cameo or something, where you can get like a message from a person. And I wanted to get Monica Rial like declaring a rivalry to you or something, but she's not doing it right now. Or like the
Brian, I would have lost my shit.
I know, it was actually really upsetting.
That's so sweet, though, that you even thought to make Monica Rial my rival for Christmas.
I know.
Aww. There was actually one where I don't think it's objectively surprising that we were hooked on it, but I was surprised because I feel like I remember falling out of it really quickly. But I'm very excited to rewatch My Hero Academia.
Look,
Do you have that on there?
on my little notes, I wrote BNHA.
Banana.
Banana. That was one where, like, I feel like as we were watching some years ago or whenever it was coming out, I was like, oh, it's really good. Oh, yeah, I do like it. Okay. All right. And then, like, I kind of, like, faded out pretty quick, like, as time went on. But watching the beginning, it did make me say maybe a second shot is warranted.
Okay, so our next topic is biggest disappointments, which we kind of already got into with Soul Eater, but that was more just because I was genuinely surprised and shocked. But there were some where I might have been ready for disappointment, and it was met. Do you want to start?
Sure. The 2 I put actually weren't in that kind of category, but more I wanted to like them or like the concept behind them so much, but the application is just kind of offensive.
Oh, I like that.
Dagashi Kashi.
Oh,
That's the candy one.
yeah, I remember Dagashi Kashi.
Dagashi
I remember Dagashi Kashi.
It was such a fun little concept to just like talk about certain candies, and clearly the person who wrote it had some sort of like passion behind that knowledge.
And you love to see things that are like labors of love.
Yeah.
You do.
You do. It always bleeds through into the show. But then they just were like, what if we took our teenage main character and just sexualized the hell out of her?
They definitely did that, and it was disappointing because the two main characters were interesting. I liked the two siblings. They were really interesting. The concept of learning about candy, I was learning a lot, and I thought it was interesting. So I remember one of the facts that stuck with me was that in Japan, candy is often interactive because if kids are purchasing it with their own money, they want to get as much for their money as possible. So you like use it as both a toy and a candy.
When prices are cheap, then you can expect the serving size to be smaller too. Kids don't have a lot of money, so if they spend it on candy that's gone in an instant, then it's a big letdown. Manufacturers have to extend your time with the candy. They need to learn to balance fun, flavors, and frugality all together.
And that's so interesting. But you don't need to have like a sexually sweating 16-year-old to make that point.
Yeah. And it was like kind of overbearing. It wasn't like a little bit here and there where you'd say, hey, it's a bad part of the show, but something I can look past. It's kind of like it becomes the crux of the show very quickly.
And I know we're not supposed to point out what comes later, but even after the first 3 episodes, you had said, oh, I remember this getting worse.
Yeah.
And that scared me.
Yeah. And then like on that same note, and like this one doesn't really need any more of an explanation because it's kind of the exact same thing we just talked about, but Nisekoi. Classic.
Yeah, I never liked Nisekoi.
Yeah, that's right. You mean the foundational concept of the first episode, right? Yakuza and like representatives having to like fake date to settle the feud between the two is a very funny concept. I feel like there was a lot of humor that could have been dug up there, but the show immediately takes a nosedive into just cheap humor and like, you know, sexualization, harem. Their knees, their legs.
Yeah.
Their legs.
Brian and I have an ongoing thing where every time we see knees that are even slightly like inward for the sake of making characters look younger and cuter, we call them, oh, it's those Nisekoi knees.
Yeah.
Nice.
Because like that sure just takes it to a new level. Those are my 2 disappointments that I just kind of remembered off the cuff.
I have 2. One of them, actually both of them, I'm a little afraid because they're kind of staples in the anime community.
Uh-oh.
But I think that's why I was looking so forward and I had them on such a high pedestal, and they came down. Elfen Lied.
Oh, God.
Because based on that first episode, is one of the best first episodes ever.
It's really the first part of the first episode.
I just remember a naked lady tearing off heads.
Yeah, but it's only like the first 5 minutes.
Oh, okay. The first 5 minutes are the best first 5 minutes ever. And I remember thinking, this is so cool. It's going to be something gory. And do you remember what happened, Brian?
Cat girl pissed on the floor.
A cat girl pissed on the floor.
Yeah, it's uncomfortable. It's
so uncomfortable.
It's way much.
And no one can tell me because they have that pretentious ass intro, which I would have respected had the anime warranted it. But you can't pretend to be sitting there and like waxing poetry if you're going to have. Is that even a sentence, a phrase?
Yeah, you can wax. You wax. I like waxing.
I think it's not fair to do that and then have a cat girl pissing on the floor. Anyway, I just never thought I would say that sentence.
Yeah, it's just, I don't know, it's reprehensible, really.
And the second one, I think I was most excited for because Teen Titans animation style was based on it, but was Fooly Cooly. Because I do remember hearing about that before I even really knew any anime when I was younger, and I used to be very into Western cartoons like Teen Titans, and I was super excited because a lot of them were based off of that Fooly Cooly type of animation. And then when I actually watched Fooly Cooly, yes, the animation was amazing, and I definitely see how it paved the way. The plot itself was one of the most boring things
It's
ever.
so boring.
I don't remember anything. I remember there was a bump on the head and a Vespa.
Yeah, it's kind of like random for random's sake, and not in a way that's like fun. It's just kind of like, it makes me very disconnected from what's going on.
It's very Hot Topic circa 2003 RAR XD. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. Rip on the new one, though. It's crazy. Because, I don't know, I'm just going to say Melancholy of Haruhi Suzuki.
That one also sucks. That wasn't even a disappointment, though. Like, I couldn't even be disappointed. I was just the whole time watching it like, wow, this is bad. And I remember watching all of it in high school and thinking, this is bad. And then I got older, I said, maybe it'll be good again. Nope, it's bad. Another one, too, that was trying to be all fancy and poetic and just wasn't.
Yeah. Like, you can't just make a show that's like a cheap ploy for harem and like boobs, and then like be random and expect people to think you're an artist. I'm sorry,
You're not
Like,
deep.
you're just not deep.
Also, I think that was one of the most uncomfortable shows at times as well.
Yeah.
It went beyond just like bouncy boobs. It was straight up like,
Let's bring the mood up a little bit.
Okay.
'Cause we're in a rut here right now.
Yeah.
It's dark.
next up would be nostalgia fulfilled. So, what anime did we have a really good feeling of nostalgia for, even if it wasn't too far back, that we really feel held up?
Bakano. By the way, this is maybe, too late to mention, but the way that we rolled or like found out which anime we were going to watch because it wasn't in order was we had a D100, a 100-sided die that we would roll, and then we had all the 100 anime on a corresponding list. Bakano was the first one we watched, way back. I had a friend show it to me a very long time ago when I was kind of like newer to anime. We were kind of exchanging some of our favorites. I remembered it being very funny, a little bit witty, smart, and like I was worried it was going to be a little bit just kind of like in that same realm of that Haruhi Suzumiya kind of random for random's sake. But really, all it is breaking up the time, I guess, line in like
Yeah.
a way that like makes it exciting to learn new information and kind of like mix you up a bit. I had a lot of fun watching it. That was like the first one I remember thinking to myself like, wow, maybe this isn't going to be so bad and watching all these shows again because it was actually pretty fun.
I agree. That was good. I didn't have nostalgia for it because I had never seen it.
Can we talk about how you had a crush on Jacuzzi Splat though? Because he's your character type.
Okay, 1, he's awkward, but also kind of cool. 2, his name is Jacuzzi Splat.
Jacuzzi.
I think, too, what's sticking out for me with some of these is that there are some common... We mostly watched common anime, but there were a few that, even though they were still popular, weren't as popular, so I guess I never heard about them. So when I saw them again, it was like, oh wow, I haven't really thought about this in a good 5 years. Do you remember The World is Still Beautiful? Here,
World?
I'll help you. It's a tender...
Oh, yeah. Wait, that was so much fun.
Because I'm pretty sure it's like also one of those where eventually everything good about it gets ruined, but we don't know that in the
We
first
only watched the first 3 episodes. I remember it was really campy but fun.
It was so campy. I also remember the part where the guy was trying to assassinate her or him or something. Like someone was trying to be assassinated, so someone shot an arrow and it like did 7 different cutaways from different angles.
It's kind of like that, like when you watch really cheesy soap
Yes.
ops from like public television, like
I was like, boom, boom, boom.
It's a tender rain. あなたの窓
yeah, actually I did forget about that. That's so funny that you mentioned that.
But that was one of the first ones I saw because Mom made me watch it because Mom used to think every shoujo was good.
Yep.
She probably still does. And that just like took me back to when I was in high school and like genuinely thought that was a work of art. In a way it is still, just ironically.
Another one I had thrown in here was Samurai Champloo.
That is a good one.
And I think that falls into that category of like older shows that people used to hype up kind of in the past, but like unlike some of the other ones we've kind of been railing on, like this one was worth the nostalgia that people have for it. Like the art's very clean, the mood the show has, it's kind of very like nihilistic but not in like a downbeat way, I think is very fun. The characters are, I love all 3 of them for like very different reasons though.
It also has a really good soundtrack.
So good.
Really good
Some
soundtrack.
days, some nights.
Days, some nights, some live, some die in the name of the samurai. Some fight, some bleed, so on.
There were a few where I remember really enjoying the anime, and when I watched it again, I thought, oh, this will be really cool to watch again one day because it seems like it aged well. Things like Assassination Classroom or on High School Host Club.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, everyone can agree, like, that's just a classic. And then obviously for me, Blue Spring Ride, which at this point can count as nostalgia if I read and watch it every year.
Sure.
But every time I watch it again, I remember how perfect it is.
Like literally on the exact same note, I put Valkyria Chronicles here.
Oh.
The anime isn't like anything special. I don't even think it specifically does anything for me. It's just that like I love that universe and the characters so much from like when I played the game like nonstop for a while a few years ago. Seeing it again just made me happy.
See, I really know nothing about the game except for the fact there's a bimbo named Cherry who I'm basing my D&D character off of, Berry.
I actually love that that's the source material. For anyone who hasn't played the Valkyria Chronicles game or like seen the show, the universe is based loosely off of World War II times, and it's not quite the world. It's not, our world that we live in, just kind of a fake equivalent. But the thing that's really funny is everyone who fights in your battalion is an anime character of sorts. So So what that results in is characters like Cherry, who's just a valley girl. So when she reloads, she'll be like, I'm reloading. Like, duh. I think she says that when she kills people. She'll like,
I need to play that game.
I think you would like it.
Oh my goodness.
But she'll finish capping the equivalent of a fascist. She's like, duh.
That's amazing.
Really good. It's classic.
I don't even remember what we're talking about. I'm so distracted by Cherry.
By Cherry, Queen. We were talking about nostalgia-filled shows, or shows that
fine.
meant nostalgia.
We're forgetting a very big one.
Is it Naruto?
It's Naruto.
It's Naruto.
It's Naruto.
It's Naruto.
I feel like Naruto has drifted away from being just a show we've watched to being one of those staples where no matter how bad it is, it fills up such a large part. It's like Ruby. We always have to compare something to Ruby. Does it have the most drawn out, convoluted plots? Does Naruto itself have some of the worst use of filler ever?
Is it kind of trash?
It's objectively trash, but I will never stop loving those characters.
It tested me with the first 3 episodes, because the first episode's amazing. It's that Aruka sensei, tears flowing.
One of the best first episodes ever.
How did you know? How did you know I wasn't Aruka?
Because I am Iruka.
Like, that is... If you ever need to understand what Naruto's all about, it's that 5 minutes right there.
That was perfect.
But then it follows it up with the, I think it's Konohamaru episode, which is just so bad.
Oh, no.
And then the, drinking the milk.
The plot ended because Naruto had to shit.
Yeah,
it was all the Sakura and Sasuke stuff, and that's when you realize, oh wow, these are the 2 next most prominent characters.
Yeah.
That sucks.
The show let you know up front it wasn't going to be good, but it's also my favorite show maybe ever. So.
It's so long that the most prominent characters, like Rock Lee and stuff, don't come in until much later.
What episode Rock Lee introduced? So manga, he was from chapter 36.
That means nothing to me.
I'm trying my best here. Oh, Naruto episode 21.
I was really off.
You know what it is? Like, they come back from the Zabuza thing, they probably go right into the Chunin exams.
Wow. Which, by the way, because I was doing the video on bulk of characters the other day, and I had to type in just Rock Lee to get a picture of him. I just typed in Rock Lee into Google. One of the first things to pop up is Rock Lee smacking 10-10 from behind with his dick.
Wow.
Anyway, that's super off topic.
What is wrong with you people? Is there no shame?
There is no shame. We need more of it. All right, I'm most excited about this one. Ironic enjoyment, which we have gotten so into.
I'm also gonna fight you on that a little bit. I don't think there's such a thing as ironic enjoyment. Like, whether or not you can appreciate the show being bad, you still enjoy it.
This is
the
true.
love in your heart doesn't differentiate between loving it or loving it ironically.
I agree with you. The problem is I can't think of a word then for how to describe the reason I like 80s He-Man. What would you call that? Goofy factor?
I guess it's kind of like what we talked about early on, where it's like there's 2 umbrellas. One is where you enjoy something because it's objectively good and motivating and compelling.
Yes.
And one where it's so dumb and silly that you still genuinely develop a love for it anyway.
Okay, well, we need a word because I guess ironic is just not good enough for you.
My word would be JoJo's Bizarre Adventure.
That's a few words.
The JoJo factor.
The problem with JoJo's, though, is that sometimes it's just good. It's not even, silly. It's just good. And there are times where then they're hiding in a turtle.
I was at Dante's last week, and he's now on Stardust Crusaders, and it was the episode where Polnareff's introduced. Spoilers for JoJo's, I guess. Polnareff loses his fight with Avdol, and he's burning to death.
Yeah.
And they throw him a knife, and they're like, kill yourself, so it's easier than burning to death. He's like, that's unhonorable. I lost, so I'll burn to death. And they're like, oh, he must have an evil bug in his head, I guess, because no one would be so chivalrous if they were truly evil. And that's just what the show's like.
Except you're not saying it right. They're screaming everything. They're like, look, he had a bug in his head.
It is, you are right. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have said it's just a JoJo factor. Just where my mind goes when I think about trash that I love.
JoJo's is trash, and I do love it. And I think it owns up to being trash. There's no way that Araki was writing it and saying they're hiding in a turtle because some guy named Grateful Dead is going to be turning people old in a train.
Jen, I'm sorry, it's Thankful Death.
Sorry, I need to not get sued.
You got localized.
The Thankful Death.
Thankful Death.
But there's no way he was writing that and not understanding what he was doing.
It kind of transcends, right?
It really does.
When you start off in this category of, we'll call it ironic enjoyment now, you start off just thinking, oh, here, it's funny, it's goofy, it's dumb, how is this real? I love it. And then it worms its way into your heart with that. What other ironic enjoyment shows did you have?
I feel like the problem is that I love that kind of watching so much that I think I've already named a few. Such as Looking Up at the Half Moon.
Oh, yeah.
Even though it wasn't the whole show, there was that one part in Say I Love You, which I extremely dislike, where the guy says, what is it?
Busty babes with bodacious tatas.
Busty babes with bodacious tatas. Brian, we watched that over a year ago. The fact that you knew immediately what I was talking about.
Word on the street is Sano's chock full of busty babes with bodacious tatas.
Because we say it every time we watch like, if we're watching an anime and someone says something somewhat sexist or about, like, I don't know, boobs.
Which, there have been very unique ways to say boobs, but none have matched up to that.
None. And we will just immediately look at each other and in unison say, Busty babes with
and
bodacious
tatas. What a work of art.
Goodness. I put Special A here, which I think I already mentioned a bit about. I also put Kuroko no Basketball. Haikyuu is just a show about kids who really like volleyball, and, like, while I'm sure they have some degree of suspended disbelief with how good they are at what they do, it is still somewhat, like, based on reality. Kuroko no Basketball is just JoJo's with basketball. They have special powers that they use to outplay their opponents, and that's just something that I really love. So, do you want to do maybe a rapid fire for the best in show items, like animation, plot, that sort of thing?
Yeah. Well, you go, because you're probably a bit more technical about it. You had the ratings.
Well, I don't know about technical. I would just say animation, the things that jumped out at me that I included. I mentioned Kill la Kill and Fooly Cooly, because again, while they were shows we didn't necessarily love as much, the animation is clearly kind of game-changing, right? When you look at what came out before and after, clearly very important and good, and also very vibrant. The Kill la Kill animation specifically, I remember, was just so expressive.
It was so fun. There was, like, so much happening.
Yeah. And it was, like, dirty, and, like, that's kind of why I complain a little bit about modern animation, that 2015 style later, is that it's so clean that it looks like you're watching the same show 5 times over. You want to have a little bit of stylistic.
It's like when Courage the Cowardly Dog was airing, that was such a good use of character and animation. Even though it was objectively ugly.
Hideous.
All those characters were ugly. It was great.
JoJo's, again, the color palettes. And the way that they switch, like, the color palettes randomly, and we'll do...
They take in the elements of manga into the animation.
Yep, it's very cool. So I like that a lot. Haikyuu is just technically very cool. The action sequences. You know what it is? It's the thin lines and, like, the blurred, I guess, style they use reminds me a lot of the Naruto Pain fight.
I will say I have a complaint about Haikyuu.
Oh, do you?
It's very minor. I don't like when they're standing by a net and they get rid of the net in front of their face.
Oh, and they erase it.
Am I just supposed to pretend there's no net there?
It would probably be a lot of money to animate them.
I don't care. I don't like that.
I also have a complaint about Haikyuu animation. They've bimbified them. Have you looked at, like, a season 1 photo versus like a season 4?
Did they bimbify Hinata?
It's like it's everyone. They all look younger and more childish now than they did 4 seasons ago. It's very strange.
That is strange.
But you can, like, Google it, like, picture.
They might have changed.
Oh, they may have. Also, like, it's not the end of the world. It's just very funny to look at when you, like, search a side-by-side photo. And then the last one I put in was One Punch Man. The action sequences in that show are so brutal and, like, kind of bombastic that it fits really well with the over-the-top
I also
comedy.
like how it'll switch then to his face looking very, like, drab.
Yeah.
It's such a good contrast.
It really is.
Dusk Maiden of Amnesia, I think it's another disappointing one because I used to love it, and rewatching it was really disappointing in terms of them sexualizing teenagers. But technically she's 60. Yeah, she's 17. Anyway, that was the first time I saw such an intricately animated series where all the colors were stunning. You could tell they were going for spooky but surreal. It was gorgeous. Blue Spring Ride, in that first episode where they use the watercolor
Oh, it's so
aesthetic.
washed out. Yeah.
Yes, it's gorgeous, and they use it for the flashbacks because you're supposed to think of it as in memory.
I actually didn't write that particular one down, but you mentioned song. Do you want to talk about soundtrack, I guess?
Oh yeah, that could be fun. I have opinions.
We do. Go ahead. You
Wait,
first.
well, it's your opinion. You seem...
Well, we didn't include Zombieland Saga on the list.
We didn't.
But, like, it's
It's so good.
It's not just the songs they sing too, because also the first 2 episodes are so weird where they have like the metal and like the rap
Yeah.
inserts, and then kind of fades into regular pop music. But also the one acoustic guitar backtrack that has kind of that Western style.
Yes.
So then what do you feel like doing?
Taking over the whole damn country!
Why?
That is so good.
Yeah. What other soundtracks were you?
I really like the Fairy Tale soundtrack. That like Celtic rock.
It's maybe the only good thing about the show.
It is, and it's another thing that's disappointing because I will feel so fired up
Oh.
by the music, and then Lucy will be like, "I'm using my power of ki to take off my shirt."
That show is the epitome of she boobed boobily.
She did boob boobily.
Bodacious. No, busty babes.
Busty babes and their bodacious tatas. Classic.
Classic. Yeah, soundtrack wise, I'm trying to think what else. Kill la Kill had that don't lose your way to
That's
like bust
really
out.
good.
It was really good.
The key is knowing at what dramatic points to restart the same part of your song
Yep.
over and over. Like, do, 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 golden wind.
Oh, yeah. I mean, come on. We're not going to not talk about
Golden Wind. I love Golden Wind.
Oh, Fighting Gold is the intro song, too.
Fighting Gold.
That's like a classic.
Wow, we cannot sing.
We can't.
We're gonna do it anyway.
Naruto, though, and Shippuden, I think people give too much credit inversely almost to either Naruto or Naruto Shippuden, where like people talk a lot about how good Shippuden is. I think when you look at the original Naruto plot, if you cut off that entire back half of filler,
Yeah.
is one of the most concise and good shows. It goes right from Zabuza to Chunin exams, right? There's the village fight, the Sasuke retrieval, like it's all compact. And then when you do the music, you talk about the original Naruto, which is amazing. Shippuden had some bangers.
It did.
It had some really good tracks. Like
They know when to pull at the heartstrings.
they do. You can literally just play the sadness and sorrow and I'll cry. So I will be sad and sorrowful.
What's making me a little sad is that I feel like a lot of these intro songs are worth talking about,
But
they're
not the
just-
actual soundtracks.
Yeah,
Yeah.
which is disappointing because I'm gonna be honest, Brian. Maid Sama's opening is a banger. Doka, please can you keep my secret?
I didn't like that show very much.
No, that was also disappointing. So I remember thinking that was really good, and I was watching it.
Now, separate from the things we talked about, one of your other points here was plot. What show's plot or concept really got you?
I mean, it's basic. I really like the concept of Attack on Titan as the core idea of like giant people running at you and wanting to eat you. It's interesting.
It's just kind of that elfin lead effect. The
Yeah.
first like 5 minutes when like they show the first attack, it's whoa, what the hell's going on here? And you want to see more. Kind of in that same note, I put Sword Art Online down again.
Yes.
I mean, that's just a very interesting hook. And I mean, at this point, what do they call it? Isekai? Is it
Yeah,
when you go to
isekai.
a different universe
Yes,
or whatever?
yeah.
It's very played out.
Oh, yeah.
But at the time, it wasn't as much, or at least when I saw it, it was the first time I had seen a show like that, so.
It's also different because it's not like Kirito is the only person going into this world. It's like they're all being transported there, so they have to work together. It's not just Kirito is transported there and more powerful and better than everyone else. He is more powerful and better than everyone else, and I do find him a little boring because of
Yeah.
that, but it's not for the same reasons a lot of other isekai protagonists are.
I feel it. But yeah, I also put Death Note down.
Oh, Death Note is
It's a good
really
chess
good
game. It's
plot.
a good chess game. Mirai Nikki is like one of the most reprehensible shows in a lot of ways, but again, the plot, like the concept of what they're doing is very cool to me. And then I think Ouran High School was the last one I put down for plots that are fun.
Yuri on Ice.
Ooh,
You know what I like about Yuri on Ice?
Yurio.
I mean, obviously Yurio, but I was realizing lately, because I, once again, did a video on bowl cuts, used Yurio even though he doesn't have a bowl cuts, but then it made me realize, can you stop twirling your mustache?
No.
Okay. Yuri Katsuki is supposed to be this protagonist who is in the final phase of his life. Like, this is his last chance to make it big because he's getting old.
24.
23.
Oh,
And when I watched it, I was younger and I was thinking, oh yeah, 23, that old hag. And now I'm almost 24. And it's kind of nice having a protagonist who's not in high school. Not to say the high school anime settings are bad.
Yeah.
They're not. They're fun. But it's cool to see someone my age.
going through the list of things you have here, one of the last ones is humor.
I just realized something.
Yes.
Another anime we watched in the midst of this list that wasn't on the list was it Tales of a House Husband?
Oh, yeah.
Story of a House Husband?
Yeah, one of those.
I'll put it up.
Yeah.
But I finished watching that pretty recently. It is so funny.
Hold on, I have to Google something. How many guys can I fight?
That one is very funny, and
is.
it's also extremely wholesome. He's such a good guy.
Way of the House Husband.
Way of the House Husband.
Yes.
That's so funny.
That is a really funny show. That's a great mention for this category.
I can't
One Punch
believe I got
Man,
that. One Punch
Zombieland, War in High School, Non-Biori.
You just wrote them down,
I did.
didn't you?
Kekken Shoujo. Did we talk about Kekken Shoujo yet?
Another Monica Rial masterpiece.
It was. But it's funny because me, you, and I feel like anyone else who's watched it in our circle was kind of not super hyped about it the first time some years ago.
I
And watching
remember,
it this time was very funny. It's like a...
Our taste changed
It
over
did.
time.
It did.
I remember, I don't even know if it was funny, but the energy was goofy for Lovely Complex, which I didn't expect to enjoy considering how fucking old and gross that animation is.
Yeah.
No offense to the animators, it's done well. The art style itself, though, it just looks...
Hideous.
Yeah.
You know, to round out like this whole discussion, do we want to just read off the our top 10s and then how that balanced out into the ultimate top 10?
So we do have a compilation of, because a lot of this was done numerically. We do have our overall bottom shows, which were the worst 3 episodes to start with. Let's start at number 7 and go up to number 1. That's
So we're starting with the one that wasn't the worst, but was definitely close to the worst.
It was the 7th worst.
Yeah.
Beyond the Boundary, which received a score of 1.5.
This show also has, like, I'm pretty sure a cult following, or at least a pretty dedicated fan base, because I'll still see random stuff pop up about it. And, like, even the first time I watched it, I was so bored and cared not at all. And this just, like, second rewatch really cemented that for me.
Wow. Yeah, that was so boring. I fell asleep both times we tried to
You
watch
did.
the first.
Like, you really did.
I fell asleep during the second episode, and you watched them and didn't really know I was asleep. And I said, Brian, I'm so sorry.
We
have
have
to
to
do
watch
it
it
again.
You made
And
me
then
watch that
fell
twice, and I hate you.
asleep again. But it was so bad. And also, number 6, Dog and Scissor. Very interesting plot. It's not good.
It's not.
Number 5, Say I Love You. We can be as mean to that show as we want. It gifted us with bodacious tatas. It just
Busty
did.
babes.
With their bodacious
and then
tatas.
bodacious tatas.
Number 4, our mom made us watch many a year ago, was Familiar of Zero, which is just bad.
Boring.
It was so boring. Then we have number 3, Melancholy of Haruhi Suzumiya. I don't think it's good. And I'm not saying that to feel pretentious. I usually like what's popular and dislike what's not popular.
Oh, yeah.
I just really think
Some things are popular for a reason. I don't understand this one.
I don't even know why people like it. It's so bad. And this is not based off of the first 3. I also remember watching the rest of it and feeling the same way. Number 2, Sankareya.
Zombie GF.
Oof, that one is bad. It's not interesting. I'm pretty sure at one point the cousin wants to fuck her cousin, and the dad takes naked pictures of his daughter.
It just, sometimes it'd be like that.
You know, just call it a Tuesday. I don't know.
Oh.
Then number 1,
Elfen Lied.
the worst anime.
Say it. Say what you want to say.
Elfen Lied.
Why is it the worst one, Shannon?
Because, I don't know, maybe it's the part where, do you think maybe when the cat girl pissed on the floor, Brian?
I think that might be it.
Yeah, maybe.
I feel like we have to give an honorable mention to this other one here, too.
Oh, I see, you split up.
Those are ours. Yeah, so
Okay.
On this list, I also have separated out Shannon and I's least favorite ones. It just so happened that this one was on both, but didn't make it into the final cut. Because it was, like, slightly higher, I guess, by point system.
Oh, because we included Dante that week.
We did.
We had a guest star.
Shout out to our boy Dante, who did not hate this as much as we did, I guess.
And I guess you saved it from being on the overall bottom.
I guess.
That's so funny.
But yeah, Pet Girl of Sakura Hall.
Let's go to something a little more upbeat.
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 Alright.
No, okay. We're really singing a lot today.
I was thinking of good music. So we have our overall top shows, and we actually have 12 here, just because a lot of them were tied in score. We talked a little bit about, I think, like, how we'd rate them. Some of these are tied, and, like, maybe would be switched spots, but for the most part is in the order we have them in, I think.
Interesting. I'm looking at this now.
It is, right? But again, you have to remember this is the first 3 episodes, and,
Yes.
I think that plays a lot into it.
I disagree with some of these.
Well, just how it is. Number 12 is Erased, which is a 7.5. You rated it higher than I did, dude.
Whoa.
Yeah. And it's funny because we've both watched the show in its entirety, and I liked it more the first time I watched than you did. You watched it and were kind of eh.
Yeah.
I think it's just like, I don't know, it's an interesting concept. I feel like it overstays its welcome. But that's not what we're talking about.
And it has a disappointing end, but we don't see the end.
But we don't see the end. We only saw the first 3 episodes, which is a pretty compelling setup to a very interesting story arc. Number 11. Could we do like a Watch Mojo?
Number 11, Your Lie in April.
Yeah, I mean, that's just a good show.
That is.
It's just a good show. It's not as exciting. It's kind of balanced throughout, right? Start to
Yes.
finish. It's not like the first 3 episodes are these real attention grabbers. So that's probably why it's as low as it is, I guess, on the top list.
Lorelai April is really good. Stunning animation, great music. I'm almost offended we didn't talk about the music earlier with that. But
Oh, yeah.
we should have. Oh well. There's 100 anime. How are we going to remember everything? I'm surprised number 10 is Gekken Shoujo Nozaki-kun.
Again, it was very funny. I think we watched it, had a really good time, and then we're like, yeah, it's a good score.
And I kind of just forgot about it since then. Non Biori is number 9, makes sense.
Yeah, that's oddly enough one of the shows we've talked the most about outside of doing this.
Yeah.
Just in general, like we watched more episodes. It's just a weird. That's another like labor of love one too. You can tell the person who made that and like the teams and stuff that worked on it clearly have some sort of love for like the countryside
Yeah.
and like that kind of like small town.
Which, now that we live in Pennsylvania, I kind of relate to
kinda
it.
get.
I feel like number 8 was something I was enjoying a lot in the moment, but now that I haven't seen it,
Yeah.
I want to watch it again, but I'm not in a rush.
Straight out the window. Wandering Sun. Objectively, is one of the few times I've seen the concept of like gender and someone who's trans kind of going through like a younger age experience be handled in like a responsible way. Number 7 is something that is both action and well written, which is Samurai Champloo, which we talked a little bit at length before. I don't know if you had anything else to say as closing notes go.
No, I just love Samurai Champloo.
It's really, remember the only time it's ever been done well when she runs with the bombs in her shirt, and it looks like she's got some
Massive, bodacious tatas!
They're busty babes.
Busty babes,
Bodacious
bodacious tatas, and their bombs.
Classic. Sword Art Online number 6.
Classic.
Yeah, I mean the first 3 episodes are really
Good and
there.
kind of falls a little short, but whatever. Oron, once
Good
again.
all the way throughout. It's a little absurdist too.
Yeah,
which is always
absurdist,
helpful.
which I like.
4 is One Punch Man, which you liked so much more this time around than you did the first time.
I think the problem was the first time I was watching it, I was more impatient. And after the first few times he won, I was like, I understand that's the point, but I'm getting kind of sick of this. Whereas now I could watch it for 100 episodes straight, never
You
get over
wanted it to go somewhere, and it's never really going to, probably. We do
and
still
I'm
need to
okay
watch the
with that
second
now.
season.
Yeah.
3,
Yay! I'm so glad I made the top 3.
Blue Spring Ride. It deserves it.
It's perfect.
It's probably objectively the best shoujo.
It is.
talking about it.
The manga's phenomenal.
Can I put a little star?
Yeah.
Can I put a little star?
Yeah.
We talked about it almost not at all, but I think it deserves some sort of recognition in this monolith that we're building. Toradora.
Toradora.
I would argue for the better part of like probably 4 or 5 years my favorite show. And like as I've gotten older and like started looking at it more, I've been like, ugh. With certain parts.
It definitely has its parts.
But the good parts are good.
And it has a unique animation style. I really like the fact they focus on the friendships as much as the romance, which
Yep.
is the same reason I love Blue Spring Ride.
Oh, yeah.
Number 2, Angel Beats. That one's just so objectively well done.
Yeah, it's just stunning. It's a little bit weird. It's hard to follow at the beginning as you're thrust into all this strange information.
And that's another one where it's amazing they can make you laugh that much in a show that also makes you sob your eyes out.
It's fucking brutal. And number 1, the best show of all time.
I can't
baby.
believe it beat Angel Beats.
Number 1. These little fuckers love volleyball so much. That's just the thing, is that sure, you have allegories for death and lost innocence of childhood, but also these guys just like spiking the ball. I don't know what else there is to tell you.
They just hit a ball back and forth for like 50 episodes and it beat Angel Beats.
And it beat Angel
And
Beats.
I'm okay with
And you
it.
should be. Season 3 was just one single game.
It was! Every time I thought, how is this all happening in one game? I remembered that in anime time, every minute you can technically monologue for 20 minutes and it doesn't count. I think what this goes to show is that no matter how good or bad an anime may be, or how long ago we watched it, how poorly or well it aged, there is something you can take away from everything you watch. And I really think that makes it feel like nothing is a waste of time. Because I really don't think there was one thing I couldn't take something away from.
Even if it was how much you disliked it.
Even if it was how much I disliked it, we shared that. So now it's a joke
did.
between us.
And I would say, like, if you're a content creator, even the shows that were very goofy or bad, or ones that we kind of despise, they were trying stuff.
Yeah.
Like don't just play it safe, because the ones that got forgotten are like arguably the saddest part of this list, not the ones that were at the very bottom. You know?
Oh
like,
no, because Honestly, when I'm looking at some of the ones we had at the bottom, I remembered really liking some of the parts because of how much I was excited to see how much I hated it.
Oh yeah, it's fun to watch in a group, especially if you're ever like wanting to watch a show that's very popular but you kind of hate. Get a group together, and it's magical. I watched Elfen Lied with all of my college roommates on our last semester, and it was actually magical. Like, I don't think I would ever take that experience away because of how bad like, we were just.
That's cute though.
Yeah.
I did the same thing. Michaela and I watched Beastars in one sit through, and there were parts where we thought it was so painful.
Yeah.
But we had to keep watching because we just wanted the main wolf guy to hook up with Louis the deer. I hope they hook up. Dante keeps trying. Well, Dante's coming up a lot. Dante keeps trying to get me to watch the second season. Dante, you will watch literally anything, won't you?
Dante's the one who recommended Elfen Lied to us.
Unironically, he just said, "Sit down and watch this. It's good."
It was 2015. You gotta cut him some slack.
Dante, what are you doing? And yet he won't watch Ruby. What a piece of shit.
This has been the longest call out post for Dante ever written.
I love him. He's just stupid. And the fact that he ruined our list. Pet Girl of Sakura So was supposed to be much worse. And then he was like, it wasn't bad. This was a lot. This really did take so long, and I'm glad we finally did this because we've been putting it off for so long. I'm probably just going to throw up the actual scores somewhere just so people can see. I'm curious, everyone. Have you ever seen an anime that you used to love and now you think is actual trash? How do you feel about anime cat girls pissing on the floor?
Oh.
I'm going to slowly play off It's a Tender Rain. It's a tender